Oh, all right. No. All right. You to work. So we're going to do a crafting session, theory crafting session, in fact. All right. So quickly get this stream set up, and then we will crack into it. All right. Awesome. Oh, thanks a lot, dude. Appreciate it, man. Hey, Exploder. So, first step here. Thanks for the resub, Posho. Appreciate it, dude. Hey, Arcanon. So, first of all, with this perforate. So let's just get it in here. When did I have TTS in here? Appreciate it, man. I didn't realize I added TTS. All right, so pretty much I wanted to see if I could get perforate working, and that's what we're going to do. So the first thing I think we need to benchmark is if we go and we have a look at, I want to get into the game. It's 100% worth learning, man. And there's tons and tons of League Starter videos. I'll be doing tons of videos over the next weekend. So that's pretty much my next weekend. And up the League Start will be like content. And there's tons of other creators too. It's definitely a game worth learning. So it's not a waste of your time and it's not too late. Yeah. No, that everything's a normal size in Australia, dude. But yeah, we do have a thing called tip horses or horses that live in the dump. All right, so poe.ninja. Uh, I want to play perforate. I haven't played a perforate build, like not properly. So just on a benchmark scenario, just gonna pull this to the other window so I don't accidentally exit out of that window. Thanks for the follow, dude. Appreciate it. So if we hit perforate, well, we're not gonna hit. I don't think we're gonna hit a perforate. There probably are people playing perforate, to be honest with you. There's a very small percentage, but the DPS rates on these are really low. So we don't want to worry about like trying to find a build that's specifically perforate. What we actually want to find a build to reference is Flicker Strike. And the reason why Flicker Strike is you usually get like some crazy shit with like insane levels of damage like this, right? And because it's going to use sword, it's going to probably work. So we got Zerkers, there tends to be a lot of Flicker builds, but there are Flicker Jugs. They're Chaos converted. We're looking for just raw physical damage like that. And actually, 100 mil is wild. So that's probably the best benchmark to use. We just filter DPI. 1.2 billy. Holy shit. Flipping duck shit. Like, that's pretty wild. But, like, the defense levels on these are pretty crap, and we have to balance defenses. We just basically need, like, tech that we can steal. So that potentially has some potential there. No, we're just gonna. So I've got everything I need for Earth Shatter right now. I've actually got all the trees split up. I was just didn't really feel like putting it all together tonight on stream. I wanted to see if I could play around with getting a perforate build working. So we're just going to do a Correct. That's it, Keck Phoenix. That's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to take the something like this isn't going to work. So we want to go two-handed sword. So we can try axe or we can try sword, right? And then we just have to theory craft it. But on a flat DPS scale, if you can get it to approximately 15 to 20 million DPS on a jug and make it tanky, it's going to probably work. So like 93 million DPS, right? Absolutely ballistic. Obviously, this is a crazy, crazy axe. But if we can scale this with swords and basically make this work in the way that, yeah, you get the gist, right? So this is basically a good tree to work on. So we know this is an axe-based tree. So this is going to guide us in how we do this. So this is the sort of idea behind benchmarking and stuff like that. And then I get a good idea of like what works and what doesn't work. It's not necessarily like creating something 100% new, but it's about coming up with a way to actually make it work. So we need melee. So let's switch to Marauder. We're going to go level 95. We're going to go Juggernaut to start with. Ascendancies, I would probably say. Sure, thought training where you come up with taking a flicker build and not some. So it's partly because there's so much damage in a flicker build, right? That you can compromise damage for defense without getting too much drop off. Whereas if you start with a build that's like 5 million DPS and you still only get to like 1.2 or 1.5, it's still far too low. And even 5 mil at a benchmark standpoint is far too low. Whereas like if you take a build that's like 90 million DPS and scale it back down pretty significantly, you can make it work. And then really like you're just looking for like, okay, where's your shortfalls in offense and defense, and that's how you basically balance it, right? So in this case, like we're probably going to go unstoppable, undeniable for accuracy, unbreakable at this stage. Now, just having a look at the tree that they got. So the other thing will be like skill setups, perforate. We're going to run probably brutality. So if we just have a look, we got brutality, we got multi-strike will work. Yeah, okay. Calm down. All right, so we got multi. Shit, I can't spell. All right, so multi-strike. Not too worried about like if these are awakened or whatever. Close combat may work. Melee. We're probably going to go more extreme than what we would normally go. So fortify potentially. But there are probably other routes that we can go. We just need to get a working tree working at this stage. Yeah, I guess that's the case. But if you get enough damage and you're tanky enough with perforate, it'll feel fine at the end of the day, right? So we could take close combat. I'm not sure if that will work though. We'd have to test that. So cannot support skills that create. Yeah. So arguably, like that would work, right? So then we're going to make a weapon here, and let's argue say so we can take swords with perforate. Pretty sure. Sword or axe. So arguably, we could just go two-handed axe. Like that would actually work. Hey, Cosmos. Bone Shatter's better with endurance charge stacking, to be honest with you. And then you run the save. Oh shit. Alright, so including full DPS. I don't know if this is gonna work, by the way, so we're just gonna wing this shit. So I want two-handed sword. I want to see if I can do this two-handed sword. Brandishing blade, base deeps is too low. Crit multi is actually going to work because we're going base damage and crit. And that's the beauty of the jug is you can get access to crit very easily. And the accuracy is pretty good too. So we could take exquisite blade, bam. Earth Shatter's pretty much ready to go. I just got to like do the video. Just got to finish the POB, right? And I just didn't feel like doing it tonight. I sort of wanted to theory craft another build to test out, and then like Earth Shatter, if they nerf it, then I have a second option. I'm still going to put that video together though. So yeah. So with this, we want like stupid amounts of fizz damage. Basically want fizz damage to be as high as possible. So it's 600 damage weapon. Prefix. Not too concerned, but let's say, you know, we don't need gem. It's not POE 2, so we don't need gem level either. So then we want like attack speed on this. So we get like 20%. Like this is like best case scenario, by the way. Crit multi is probably going to be better than chance. Accuracy is actually going to increase your damage, your attack speed, because you're a jug. So let's just like start with that. Like that's a pretty insane sword, right? That's a stupid sword. That would be very expensive. But then again, swords aren't necessarily that expensive because they're not as common as axes. So, or sorry, they are more common than axes that you get a high roll, but no one really uses them outside of builds like Flicker Strike, and even axes generally tend to be better. Second bone shadow build. I did do an endurance charge stacking a few leagues ago. For the first time. Yeah, Retaliate's pretty good, to be honest with you, Jolteon. Alright, so Perforate, we have average damage 244. It's pretty craptastic. So we got to start scaling out the tree. Alright. So we're probably going to start if we go jug, bam, 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 bam. Actually, yeah, we go defensive route. We go up here, we scale up here, generally. So come down, take that. Damage against rare enemies, or we could go that route. So the other thing we want is, we got that active, combat rush, sand stance. So you don't want it in blood stance. Sand stance 23,000 already. So say you had endurance and frenzy charges, then we don't have that. So we have intimidate, melee distance 1 because we're close combat. We already have 50,000, but we're assuming like really, really high octane weapon. I'm thinking about Slayer. I'm not 100% convinced, but I am thinking about it. We may take Onslaught here too. So that doesn't apply in this circumstance. We don't adjust any of that stuff. We don't have Ash, Unnerve, Crushed. Technically, we could take that. Shock does nothing because we're running a Brutality build. It doesn't really make any difference to the build. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's why I really enjoy this process because it's good fun. All right, so we go up here. We take these nodes. We have sword nodes down here, and we want to scale up to crit. So is it a strike skill? I don't think it's a strike skill. No, it's a slam, which is why Perforate's really weird. You usually don't really go bleed and impale at the same time. You just like choose one or the other. And actually, now that you say that, impale probably going to be better. No, close combat's better. Probably want impale here and ditch the fortify. Yeah. 75,000. It's not too bad to start with. We want that. We may also switch out for crit. So if we went crit, it's not better, is it? No, 78,000. So we're going to do crit scaling on our tree. So we go crit strike multi, that. Chance to impale enemies or 120% crit's going to be better. 14.2% crit. Bam. Bam. All the way up here. Harpooner. Impale damage. So we take that. Wrong node. That. That. We want the sword nodes. Frenzy charge when you hit unique enemies. Yeah, we want that. Probably want that and the 12%. And then what else have we got that we can take up here? We take that. Going to come up and grab that as well. Up into that and that. And we don't need to go any further. Where are we at? We're at level 60. And then we got two-handed nodes here. So we can take that up into that. To Golem's Blood. Bastion. Minimum, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we'll take that. Now, we have sword nodes. So we could go up and we could stoke impales. So we're at 487,000 DPS right now. So we got to find ways to get this up significantly more than what it currently is. Though we haven't really got anything in the build. So at level 75 right now. So argument's sake, we take that and we overcap. So that gives us more offense. We want that. We don't need that because we're a jug. So there's not a lot of sword nodes on this side. That doesn't do anything for us. That probably does, but doesn't really work for us right now. We probably could take right on. Actually, we don't want to do that. Impales. Yeah, we don't need that yet. All right, so that gets us up there. If we get it to a mill, then we can scale it. And right now, it's looking like we can get it to a mill based on dog shit, everything. And the other thing, we need crit. We need a lot of crit. We don't currently have that. So then we go back to this. We take Impale down. We lose 129,000, 136,000. That, I mean, 140. Like, that takes us down too much. Critical strikes. Probably want crit. But we lose too much damage if we lose that. We lose too much damage if we lose that. We're just going to have to find crit elsewhere. So the other thing will be auras as well. Oh, merely crit chance. There we go. So that's what we want. We want crit chance there. So we're at 534,000 DPS. Now, obviously on a jug, we'll get pretty cozy with regeneration as well. The other thing will be accuracy. Oh, but then again, actually, we can run auras. So this will be our main weapon 1. New. So say we're going to be running chest piece. So we could run an aura body piece. And we want precision is our first aura. We also want determination. Probably want pride. Give me what I want. All right. Why does pride drop our damage? Oh no, it increases our damage. So we can get that working. And we want enlightened. And we want that. It's just 21,000. And that means the only problem is we have to get our mana cost down pretty significantly. Hey, Grat, how's it going, dude? We're just doing some theory crafting. So 89, then we make some compromises here. So we go item, craft, jewels, two-handed sword. No, we want jewels. Cluster jewel, large cluster jewel. We want 8 sockets. Really, we're looking for like the biggest amount of attack damage. Vicious skewering. Probably want damage with two-handed. Usually it's like fuel the fight. Martial prowess would also be pretty good. So that gets us 89,000 is better than every other stat here. Except for Brutal Infamy. Vicious Skewering still better because it scales and pale. Add to build. Hey Ark, how's it going, dude? Yeah, you could probably take Blade Vortex and Deep Delve. Take a little bit of scaling, but you could definitely do it. So 94 to 96. What's that? Martial Prowess. Probably take that back. 99. So then we got to actually pull back on something. Because I want to get the crit up. So then what we would do is scale back. Keep that. Yeah, we could get AoE is pretty good on this, but what do we lose there? Not that much. So we'd take that. Our life's already 2,689 as well, so that's not too bad. Oh man, fuck that. I'm glad I'm at home, but it's like 12:30 or nearly 1 a.m. in the morning, so I started streaming a bit later than usual. So we're at level 96. The biggest issue here is need crit. So I'm going to go basics of pain and pressure points. All right. That's level 100, not realistic, and we would definitely need to scale this back a little bit in areas, but at least gets us started. What's our accuracy? Chance to hit is 100%. So we're at 1,000,000 DPS without anything else, right? And this is on the jug. So now we got to start like balancing this. So jug, perf, build. And noting like this is with an absolutely ridiculous sword. So let's need some ideas here. I'm a big fan of All's Uprising. So let's just start. So helm, we could take armor helm, giant slayer helm. Yeah, okay, let's just go with that. So we want like big armor, big life. We want like life regeneration rate. Let's say we just get like chaos res on that. And like something else, fire res. So that gets us started. So we'll just make this at like basic level first. And then we go from there. All right, so belt. Yeah, we just go that. We want Reslythers. Whoa, we get big damage buff from Reslythers. Takes away our ability to really scale up though. Cancel craft item, then we need sneak gloves. Armor base, Leviathans, yeah, we'll take that. Take physical, life. Generation rate, and we want like cold res, we want like 40% roll, lightning res. Bam. Still only have 35% crit. That's currently where our biggest issue is. Just trying to think how we could better work through that. Just gonna have to work with it. Well, actually, flask. This assumes like no mage blood, so utility flask, diamond flask. Gain charges when hit. Yeah. Let's go like increased crit. Critical strike during effect. So add that. Obviously bottled faith. Gets us to that. That means we do that. Leeching. Pride, maximum effect. We got 2 mil. Consecrated ground. 2.2 mil. So we're getting up there now. We need ideally Linares and Tukahama. Stationary. The other thing I like is if we take this node here, we need a way to get that as well. So the other thing we could take is does Fist of War support? Fist of War would support Perforate. Yeah, it would. Because it's classified as a slam. Which one's that? Yeah, banner reservation is still an issue, but there's tons of ways we can get around that. Life is still an issue as well, as the life pool's not high enough, so we're losing points here as well. I think like we'd have to get rid of that to accommodate level 98. It's actually better. We might just get rid of that for the time being. Level 99. Increased AoE would be a big advantage as well. The other thing that we would want would be Watcher's Eye. And we would want a Phys damage reduction roll, potentially Pride. We're going to 100% Impale. Do 100% Impale already. We want additional Impales. There'd be like best case scenario. That'd be very expensive though. Oh, thanks for the sponsors, dude. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the gift memberships, man. Really appreciate that. So next big thing, so we're at about 2.5 mil DPS, but obviously cost of stuff is pretty cray-cray. If we also corrupt this, so we could get more out of this with attack speed. Yeah, or area damage would be good, but attack speed's what we need. So we corrupt that up. Then we're going to go craft chest, body armor. We're just going to go for like Titan, probably Titan plate. We could go royal plate. All right. Then we're going to go life. We're going to go armor. We're going to go even more armor because we want as much armor as possible. We want like life regeneration rate. What's my regenerate? So life regeneration is like nearly 1,000. So we're pretty tanky. And then we want like, probably just go like chaos res on this. So that's going to be the hardest thing to scale. So fizz max hit. So we just got to get our resistances up at this stage. So, and stack even more armor. So we got 44,000 armor right now, which isn't too bad. So 90% physical damage reduction, and we still got all these points to fill in. So that's pretty cool. So bear in mind, this would be pretty cool if this actually works, and I think like it will. So, you know, rational doctrine would be nice to have. Then again, probably don't need it. And this doesn't account for Mage Blood, by the way. So Mage Blood would obviously make this significantly better. We would want Granite Flask. So let's just go back to flasks. Utility. So we want Basalt. Well, we want actually probably want that. 3 charges. Increased armor effect. High as we could get it. Bam. Ruby Flask. Craft. Sapphire. Increase charges. Movement speed. And then we'll also craft a topaz. And that would be maybe don't have block. So we could go like damage leech or avoid stun. But then again, that's pointless because we're our Ascendancy. So we'll probably go. We'll go shock avoidance, wouldn't we? Because then we're gonna run that that AMI, that jewel that gives us shock avoidance. So that gets us to 14,000 EHP. Yeah, I always automate all flasks, man. I'm not gonna. That's why I have it set to when you get hit, you generate charges, and then it just auto triggers the flask, so then you're not mucking around. It's just far, far better than sort of, yeah, mucking around with that crap. So gauntlets, the other thing that we're missing is influences. So we would go Searing Exarch and Eater of Worlds. So we want add modifier. Oh, you can have that too. All right. Apply enchant. You can still apply enchants. It's pretty wild that that's still in the game. Add implicit. All right. Searing Exarch, that's pointless. We could go with that, but we probably want attack speed. Actually, damage per frenzy charge is probably going to be better because we generate constant frenzy charges. Critical strike chance, damage per frenzy charge is better. That doesn't apply. So we go damage per frenzy charge, and so we got 5% per frenzy charge. And then we want the Eater of Worlds. That's pointless. That's not that great. None of those are very good. We've already maxed out Impale, but we could get rid of Impale nodes for to compensate for that. Pardon me. So that means we don't have to run. Can we get more out of this? 150. No, it's 60% is pretty much up there. So that means the Impale node that we have here becomes pointless. So we could take that, get 116, or we just save the point and allocate it elsewhere. So the other thing that we could put is like a Katava's Thirst. Cheers, man. You could, because you could run what? Intimidating Cry? Let's just see where we get to with this first, and then we'll see how we go. So right now we got 11, so we got 4,000 HP, 1,100 life regeneration, 54,000 armor, and we need to cap our reses. Right now we're relying too much on flask reses, which isn't good. The problem with this is very expensive to get this just to like 2.5 mil, so it's not really very effective. But then if you do the weapon, if you do the switch to bloods, oh, actually, we need blood stance and sand stance as well. So we got to have blood and sand. So then like we can switch stance, but bearing in mind, like if we have each projectile 722, then if we have a look at the skill, perforate creates 9 spikes. So it'd be 722 by 9. So 6.4 mil if you go into blood stance on that basis, if my understanding of how that skill works is correct. So the other thing, we've got 20% this, 20% this, 20% that, 20% this. Really fizz. So if we didn't have that, it does increase 2.85, but is that critical damage better than critical strike? And you get 80% crit chance then. I'd argue and say you're better off with 80% crit chance. Yeah, probably go 80% crit chance. We reallocate that Impale node. That doesn't tell us if there's anything. Drops it too much, but that's okay. We can work with that. So we're still at level 98. Yeah, this is physical perforate. If we somehow manage to squeeze that in, we would get so much more out of the builders. Like, we have insane regeneration. We still have a lot of stuff unallocated here too. So, and a lot of cluster and a lot of jewels not allocated. So Forbidden Flesh and Flame. When did that come into the? Oh, I didn't know that you could do that. So, Ascendancy wise, like being real about this, you're probably not going to get Aspect of Carnage easily. But if you had Tukahama's War's Herald, you could have Fist of War. But the other thing would be like Tesalo's wouldn't be bad either. Or we have Unflinching. I'm actually thinking Unflinching is better here. Actually, maybe Unyielding. Unyielding maybe, and we go like Endurance Charge stacking. But we need way more defense. So defense is really, really bad. But that's also because of this. Pretty much Brutality and Melee Fizz, and that's it at this stage. So another thing I'd also add maybe into gloves, automation, molten shell. That'll get our armor up. Yeah, it gets us up pretty, starts to build our armor up. Life tap and blood rage gets us to 3 mil. So like our defenses are starting to take form. So our mana's problematic. That's okay, we can work with that. Question would be if we went to like axe, would we be better off? The other thing we probably need is rage. So if we can get rage on hit somewhere, because like if we had that and then we had 30 rage, our damage goes up a mil. So if we've got rage somewhere or rage generated, that's not a disadvantage. Potentially that makes us way tankier as well. So if we threw that in there instead of that, increased movement speed with rage. At that, we had 37 rage. We got 3.5 mil. What happens if we do that? Oh shit. So you get 9. Yeah, okay. So your clear speed is going to come from your sand stance. But if you have the perforate spikes overlap, you have 9 spikes, right? That you generate with perforate. So you have a cap of 9 spikes, right? So that overlap gets you up to 9.3 million DPS straight away. And if you're close range, 9.4. Like perfect world scenario, assuming you do get that overlap, we'd be tanky enough to take enemies down. We also want that too. So sort of damage starts to go up. There's something else that I want to add to this as well. So Nature's Patience, items. So just ditch that for the time being. Natural Affinity. Boom. So that gets us to Perforate. In Blood Stance, we get to 11.2 million DPS. Sand Stance, we're at 4.2 million DPS. That's not terrible. Assuming max rage, net recovery is very high. So you'd switch to Blood Stance, you go to a boss and just absolutely tear a boss up with Blood Stance once you got stacked. And we're still missing a lot of crap in this right now. So we don't even have boots in the build. So let's add boots. What was I using? Where's my Sunder build? When you use your own damn builds for actually, I think I've got my Sunder build in here actually. Let's open it up. Okay, 3.26 Sunder. items. Boots. Can I steal that spec? Haha. 50,000 effective hit pool reached. 4.37. So yes. Yes. That should be okay initially. We just have to fix the mana problem. And we definitely need to get reses pumping way higher. So yeah. Amulet, I'm thinking. Don't really use that. Bruh. That must have been before I got Thingo. So, like, Defiance of Destiny would be, like, huge, right? Defiance of Destiny would make you pretty much unkillable. And then we would run, like, Charisma. And that fixes our mana problem straight away. And then if we switch to... what do we switch to? Shit. All right. So we go to Bloodstains. We're at like 12 mil already with Bloodstains. We get to 20 mil. We're like pretty okay. And that like it's level 99, right? So like this is theory crafting. So we got to tone this way down, obviously. But the damage is starting to scale. So you get Defiance of Destiny into the build. Like I would prefer to run All's Uprising for free aura, but Defiance of Destiny would make you pretty unkillable. Like you're laughing at that stage. And we're using mana as well. We got mana cost reduction. So the other big thing here would be, can we run... So there's a few things we can do with this too. So we could run a Thread of Hope. We've still got tons to work with. So Thread of Hope. Massive ring. We want very large ring. So we got like a pretty decent, well, so we got a decent roll. So we want to put it down there, all right? So then that lets us have that. That also lets us have that. We can tune that back. We can also take, don't need that. Don't need any of those. That's pretty worthless too. That's pretty worthless. That would be probably worth it. But we made that Uber massive ring. We wouldn't have that. We could take that and get 700,000 DPS. Oh no, that's only 213. Then we could take that. We get 345 leech. We basically hit every single impale node. And then we could tune that back, save those 2 points. We don't need that. So you could take that if you want, but it's not really necessary. These two though would ramp you up. So we get to 66. No worries, man. You have a good one. Another biggie here. Can't really get to that now. So 66,000 armor. And then if we had switch stance, 14.8 mil DPS in blood stance with the full overlap. Is enemy moving? Sure. Other stats are irrelevant. Have you hit recently? Have you killed recently? Probably. We don't use totems. We've probably got life tap. Wish we had adrenaline. DPS goes through the roof. So we have that. Close combat. So what if we go that? Well, that doesn't matter yet because we're not at that point. We have 4.4 thousand HP. So we still need to add 2 rings. So we could go ring, wrong ring. So we go like steel rings would give us the best DPS output. Nameless ring. Diamond rings would work as well. So I'll just give us crit. So flat fizz. Actually, I'd say steel rings. Or vermilion. Actually, amethyst, chaos res. So then we go flat damage, 100k deeps each ring, life, much as possible, and then we're going to basically just ramp everything else up. So we're going to go like what we need res-wise. We need all other reses. So that, cold. Let's just be reasonable. So fizz, life. Gonna go lightning, chaos. That gets us to 108,000 effective hit pool. 5.7 million DPS just on the singular hits from Ascendancy. We have a problem with dexterity though. So we have a big issue with attribute points. We need far too much int, far too much dexterity. So we'd have to deal with that. And the other thing we could switch out is like we could just run it as axes as well. If we could afford that, we get like a huge buff. So if we then check, we're at 15.4 mil on the jug. And like arguably if we ran this on like Zerka, right? So for the shits and gigs, we ran this on Zerka. We would go bam, bam, bam. We wouldn't run that. Probably run like Gore Dance. And then if we had this on like Blood Stance, we're already at 25, nearly 25 million DPS, but the compromises, actually effective hit pool isn't too bad. Leech would be 6,800 per second. You have 36.5k armor, which is pretty damn strong. So yeah, there is that. So that, like, if you play Zerka with this would be totally nuts. But in this basis, we're not going to do that. So let's have a look. It would increase if you've changed stance recently. Yeah, okay. Not really though, dude. Like you have to change stance recently to get the burst, but yeah, you get 18 mil. But like you're gonna get better normalized damage with the base skill. And like bloodshed. What? You're actually better off playing bloodshed. Like everything is better with bloodshed. But wait a minute, then how many? What? 6 spikes, 108% more damage with bleed. Is it the base damage? Attack is 282%. Unless there's some fuckery going on with the calc here. Why would that be better? Oh, yeah, okay. I see what you mean. So, yeah, it's not calculating properly in POB. Yeah, right. Wouldn't worry about that then. Um, so we have attribute problems across the board. So I need to think, what would... Thanks for the follow, Quiet White. So we want Storm Shroud. So that's going to use the Shock Avoid off of our setup. And obviously this is before Mage Blood too, so, you know. Would we get a benefit from Magnate? No. Reslythers is still significantly better. We haven't put Forbidden Flesh and Flame in. In this case, we would want like... I think Unyield... don't stun enemies. I think Unflinching is pretty much what we want to run here. Actually, Crave the Slaughter. But we need Rage Generation, so we have to take that. Much armor, that gets us to 74,000. It's not a huge buff. So if we take Crave the Slaughter... Yeah, boy. So that gets us up to 6.5 mil on our main hit. 17.6 mil when we're just like, when we go into Bloodstains, when we have 9 overlaps. So we only had 5 overlaps. Still 9.8 mil. That would be less than efficient. Thanks, Brian. So we're at 5.14 APS as well, which isn't too bad actually. It's not like horrible. It's 37 on that. 66% armor. That we just don't even follow that because it's just not accurate. So we'll just take that out. So the other big issue here is we're not using very many skills. So like have a look at the other thing too that I wouldn't be negative to putting in this would be like oh, we got 1,500 life regeneration per second as well with Defiance of Destiny, so it would be very tanky. Just very expensive to get some of these items. The other thing too that we could run would be like War Banner as well. So we've got gloves, body armor, we could put stuff in boots. So like War Banner. Just can't really run any more auras there. So then we'd have like, just chuck that in 1,000. We don't have a blind on enemies. So if we popped a War Banner, we go to 9.1. That would be if you're in Bloodstance though, wouldn't it? 13.2 mil. Oh yeah, because we assume don't overlaps. So like in its own right, if we could get this up to 100k armor with Defiance of Destiny, overcap reses, we'd be laughing. Sand Stance changes it so it's like an omni hit and it hits in like 5 directions or whatever. But when you have it in Blood Stance, it like just hits straight in front of you instead. So it's a totally different interaction. So you got to go up to a boss and prang them in Blood Stance generally. I don't think that's a huge. There's actually a disadvantage to change that. You get a lot out of that too. That wouldn't be bad either, but our cost is very low. Mana costs. Whoa. Start to really get up there with that. Yeah, right. Have that. Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. That probably is a benefit to our defense layer, but whatever. Let's chuck that one. Level 100, because that's what the tree's at anyway. We have no source of fortification right now. And that could be an issue. Inexorable wouldn't be bad to have either. Do we need that? We do not need that. It's only 100. So we can get rid of that. Keep that. So level 98. That would give us 18,000 more armor. That gets us to 84,000 armor when we're stationary. So we got pretty decent amounts of max hit. So we're not too bad. What else? So we got 2 more sockets here. So we go jewels. Like the other thing too is if we could fit 1 more of these in, that would pop our damage up pretty high. But we're probably not going to be able to do that. So we're just going to craft a couple of jewels. So we go craft a couple of jewels. Crimson. Actually, we want Viridian. We want that. Try and get that. Try and get that. $10.5. Get over 5,000 life. 84,000 armor. Overcap reses before like Mage Blood. Mage Blood would set you 85 apiece if you had Mage Blood. You could delve very proficiently with this without any real issues at all. You're stun immune, so you don't need to worry about that. The only other thing that you could do with this is you could put in like we could switch this out because you don't need that. Then again, if we could fit that in, that would get us overcapped. So then we just need to drop off 2 points. So we could probably take that off. Then we really want that, because that's huge amounts of damage reduction. It's 121. So what do we lose? I don't see the point in having those nodes. Oh no, those nodes are a lot of damage. Oh yeah, then we don't need that. Holy shit, we missed a major node there. Alright, so we need that. We don't really need that. Sort of need that. Still leech quite a lot of mana. 37 rage. 84, 82, 82, 75. So we would be looking to try and find as much plus as we can. The only issues are we would need to balance our intelligence out. And we're missing a pretty big like slew of skills as well. So like, oh, we'd have mark on hit. So mark on hit. And then we would also do, so what mark would we use? We'd use Assassin's Mark, because we're in crit with life tap. That's going to be in our, so we'll put that in Helm. Yeah. Hell yeah. And then basically we could put, so we got gloves, body, sword, helm, boots. We could run clarity with arrogance, and that addresses any mana concerns at that point. Unreserved, so we make that like level 10. 4,700. Shit almighty. This is actually pretty, this has got some decent bloody damage on it. Increased net recovery. That means we regen 48 3.1. Mana cost per second is mana cost is 41 plus leech. We get to 132 on hit leech. So we would be able to leech and regenerate enough mana almost instantaneously. So that would be on our boots. And we're also missing on our boots. We're going to do a couple of other changes here. So we actually don't even need that chaos res on there. So we could get rid of that. We probably should go like more fire res and more cold res because we don't want to be reliant on flask. I've been told off for that in the past. So 117,000, 90, 90, 90, 90, 56. Bearing in mind our armor with our Ascendancy applies as well. So 15% of armor also applies to chaos damage taken from hits. And we have 84.5 thousand armor. So we should be pretty okay with that. 1,600 life regeneration per second with 1,000 leech on hit, which is enormous. And then we have Defiance of Destiny with 15% life recouped from hits that are incoming. So we recoup before we take damage. So we have just stupid amounts of regeneration at the end of the day. We hit for 13.2 mil on our standard Perforate. That's with Ward Banner up, with 9.4 mil without Ward Banner up. And then in Blood Stance, we do 35 million DPS with 9 overlaps. Combat Rush doesn't seem to apply. So Combat Rush doesn't do anything. So does that even work with this then? This could actually be a really, really good build. Like, I'm pretty adamant this build has full-blown potential to be like an almost, well, it's not uber killer yet, but like this would be quite friggin' good in Delve. Is that the Mario theme song I'm listening to right now? Effective crit. All right, so there's a few other things we can do here. So we don't have implicits on this yet. So we want to influence this. So Searing and Eater add implicit. We could increase global fizz damage. It's an option. Or we increase that. It's ridiculous. Add implicit, Eater of Worlds. Block damage doesn't apply. Actually, probably does, but we don't need to worry about it. Melee hits have a percentage chance to fortify. Probably want like 12 to 13 if we invest. So that's where we get our fortification from. That means we assumed we had fortify the whole time. So that means we get our fortification from our chess piece. But arguably that's not even the best way to do this because like what we could also do we can leave it as is. 13 point with War Banner up 13.9 mil on like Sand Stance. We're up to 37 mil on our Blood Stance. This is like we've got a problem here too. We've got too many points allocated. We've got to be stationary for that to apply. Our mana's a bit limiting too. I need to take that off for the time being. Just assume that we don't have that much overcapping. Overall, this build would be viable. We could also remove that, drop our life pool down slightly, because we're very tanky, so we don't need to be like rushing. That gets us down to level 96, which is a practical level, to be honest with you. So now we're starting to really talk. If we could fit that in, we get to nearly 40 mil with blood stance, but I don't know how we're going to go doing that. That is an option too. Anyway, I don't think that's viable. We do need these 2 points. Gets us closer to fixing our level requirements for skills. That and that. So we have 90%. Is that better with or without? Slightly better without. Right, but that assumes like absolute maximum levels of like everything. I am going to do a test run on this too, so we'll test this in the next few nights just to get it like started and see what happens. If we ran this on Zerka right now, right, just for the shits and gigs, so basically we'd run it like that. So we get 20 mil on sand stance, blood stance is 55 million DPS. But that's assuming like everything works to plan. So yeah, it's not bad. It's got potential. All right, so the only other problem is like generation of endurance charges is a bit finicky. So we could also pull that back off, but then we go down to 4,000 life, but then we take inexorable. Go back to 98. So we're at 4,000 life, but we lose a lot of regeneration there. I don't know about that. But we're operating at like 69,000. 70,000 armor. If we could get it over 100,000 armor, we're laughing. That's got 1, 2, 3, 6 endurance charges with that setup. So yeah. Okay. All right. Is there anything else we can do with this? Oh yeah. So we got to finish doing this. So then we have crit multi and fortify chance on our chest. So we got a good chance of having fortify pretty much up all the time. And when we're standing still, we're actually at our strongest. I haven't finished that part yet. I've done the I haven't finished the Zerka tree for Earth Shatter yet. I've got all the trees. I just got to pull them all together and amalgamate it all. All right. So lose 1.5 mil. Got rid of that. Hey, Addicted, we're just theory crafting tonight. So we got to do gauntlets we've done. Helm we have not done. So we want to influence the helm. Searing and Eater, add implicit. So we want mana cost of attacks, most likely. Oh, that would be really good as well. Oh no, Wild Pinnacle, no. Yeah, man, I got both. Multi-stream. All right, so we have reduced cost of attacks. So it's 23%. I sort of want to play this now. That's actually, that fixes that problem. So we could go increased attack damage or mana reservation efficiency. So 8% mana reservation efficiency on the helm. That frees up our mana pool, so that fixes all of our mana problems. Like, arguably we could take vitality as well. So that means we can drop this back like a couple levels. It doesn't need to be as egregious. We have tons of leech, tons of everything else. That gets our pool, life pool up. So then we want Assassin's Mark. We want 20% that. Thanks a lot for the bits, man. Appreciate it, dude. That's going to increase our deeps again. Life tapping. So we've got a spare socket there. So let's just chuck like. Yes, man. I forgot I had TTS on this thing. So clarity, we actually have 2 spare sockets in there. We got Blood Rage, we got Molten Shell, all on automation. We got Precision, Determination, Pride, Blood and Sand with War Banner. And we could 20% that as well, but it's not going to do anything. That's what level 3 Enlighten. So we have 2 spare sockets in here. I just don't even know what I would do with that. Oh, Leap Slam. Duh. And then attack speed. Faster attacks. Job done. All right. All we need to do. So that's that. Leaf Slam does a mill. That's not too bad, actually. So Perforate. That gets us to, so if we go to 9 overlap, 37.9 mil on the overlap, is the enemy on full life? Doesn't really do anything, so it doesn't matter. It's not terrible. So 37 rage, fortified, or hit recently. Nearby enemies, it's actually going to increase our defense. So 100k with Defiance of Destiny, 1,400 life per second, 800 leech per second. Overcapped reses, not the best that it could be, but you know, not terrible either. The other thing that we could do here would be like if we got a spare socket, which we do. Well, like, do you really want to worry about that, or you just leave that as is? So then we got to go. So we've got that. Oh, our boots already have 8% life regeneration rate and action speed, but because those are the boots that I had and things, so they got chill resistance as well. 21% life regeneration rate, so you're not going to get too much better than that. You could push the armor up, but it's irrelevant at that point. Rings, we could adjust, we could like totally max them out. So we're missing stats in here. So really you want like dexterity. You want like a decent roll of dex on that. Both rings, and that fixes our dex problem. Off by 1 dex. Bam, no longer have a dex problem. So really the only problem with the build is the intelligence, and that's it. So have we got the best gems that we can use in here? So crit damage. So to what point? Yeah, we need a lot more intelligence to make that work. All right, so we'd have to figure that out. Alternatively, volatility is better. But if it's a slam, could we not use pulverize? Oh, that's dropping us back way too much. But the AoE would be better. Just the attack speed would be bad. Impale doesn't really work. Momentum, not an improvement. Fortify takes us backwards, and we got that off the chest piece, so we don't really need that. Ruthless would actually be decent. Yeah, so that would be not bad running Ruthless. I never realized that it prioritizes. So AoE radius without 1.5. Concentrated effect is quite good, but we run into the same issue where we don't have enough int to run it. So I would say volatility is going to be the way to go. That means every third attack is going to be a ruthless blow. And combat rush doesn't apply. Technically, we have power charges too, but if you put that in the POB and you say to people, oh, you have power charges when you're running Assassin's Mark, then people get the shits over that. Because Assassin's Mark is... Okay. Yeah, arguably you hit enough. You could have that, so yeah, you can tick that. That means if we could fit it in, we could do that, and that gets us up. But it doesn't really matter too much. That doesn't do anything more of any more benefit. Like we could put that in there, but it's just pointless at that stage. We can afford the mana costs, so it's not a huge... If we could somehow fit that, that'd do insane damage. There you go. All right. So like the only other thing we could do is play around with like swords. So it's a good song, that song. Two-handed melee. So we want forge. So if you had a star forge, yeah, you'd easily get to 500 with the regeneration and the Defiance of Destiny. You'd probably get down quite low. I'd probably say probably get to 700. It's got the DPS to be able to really damage Crystal Kings. So 48 million DPS, you could get down to about 700, no sweat. We could Starforge this. So if we had Starforge, we'd be laughing. We'd have a decent HP pool with that too. Like, bearing in mind, like, the more hits you take with the Jug as well, you have Untiring. So you're going to get 1.5% fizz damage prevented, is going to go back into your life pool, 40% life regeneration rate, shitload of armor. We could probably keep pushing this and get it over like 100k armor, maybe even 150,000 with enough, enough bluster, basically. You just keep ramping it up. And we're not accounting for like any new modifiers or anything like that. This is all just pre-existing stuff that's in the game right now. So yeah, it's not bad. I wouldn't mind mapping this out to figure out where we could really take it though. But yeah, we would need Crave the Slaughter. Would need to get Rage up pretty quickly too. So if we could find any other points of Rage, that'd be a big benefit. When one ditching Bottled Faith, like you could ditch Bottled Faith. We'd run like Basalt. So get rid of that. And you just run like, I don't know, Shock Effect maybe. What's the benefit of that? Yeah, you lose a lot of offense with that, but you wouldn't lose too much defense. Get another 14,000 armor you'd squeeze out of that. But yeah, that's before you put in like Mage Blood. If you stack in Mage Blood, you get like pretty much close to max cap crit. The other thing that you could do would be to, so if we change the boots around a little bit, so let's just, since we imported the boots, we got to take out, where is it? The implicits have to go. So we take those out, we go add implicits, we need to influence it, Searing, Eater, add implicits. So really like where you're at is you're overcapping is where you're going to get a lot of benefit here. So damage per endurance charge. It's probably going to be a big benefit. That's Searing. But if you had Brittle, and then if we did Brittle, yeah, 90% crit with Brittle. So you're actually better off with Brittle. And then that means that we got to add implicit, Eater of Worlds. Not a big issue. So you want increased regeneration based on endurance charges. Oh, you probably actually want that. No, because we do brutality. Don't want that. Yeah, so we want that. That gives 158. That gets it up to nearly 1.5k. Pretty much, yeah. You just got to keep scaling up at that point. So I would say that's not too bad. The only issue is intelligence, and that's pretty much the only thing that you would need to scale into the build somewhere. But everything else would sort of work. There's always the question mark as to whether or not the whole build would work because you have to test it. But this is pretty consistent with like a lot of other builds I've played. I just don't know how Perforate would feel. So like you go to Blood Stance, you're assuming 9 overlap. Like if you had 5 overlap, you're still going to get 27 million DPS, even if it's flawed. You do need to have banner down and you need to have rage up. But if you're getting 2 rage per hit and you're hitting with the perforate, the thingamabobs, then yeah, you're going to be laughing because you get 2 rage per hit on there. So yeah, 20% lower degradation as well. Actually, is that that's 47? Because you get 30 base plus 10 plus 7. Inherent loss is 20% faster. So you actually get 47 rage. That's not too bad. So 55 mil, 20 mil if you have max rage stacks up. So that's not too bad. Plus you're super, super tanky. The only problem is life pool's low, but you have tons of armor and tons of everything else. I can live with that. All right, there we go. Anyway, yeah, theory crafting session. So that's the problem, but there's not much that like, yeah, it's not good for this. So you'd lose 14.4 million DPS. And there's not too much discrimination here because you've only got like these points that go to sword and these points that go to sword. So you'd switch these out, but you just lose too much from that. The only other thing that I could think of would be I wouldn't have minded being able to like move all the way up to marked for death because that would give you cull. But I don't think we really need cull, and we might be able to find cull somewhere else in the build realistically. Assured strike wouldn't be bad either. Is that nearby stat there? That wouldn't be horrible. The only other thing that comes to mind would be like running one of these nodes would be like Brutal Blade, but we don't do block with the swords. Fatal Blade would be cracked. So if we could find a way to get Fatal Blade into the build, we get a 5 mil buff. And if it were like Blood Stance, it would be a 13.5 mil buff. But this is all purely theoretical right now, anyway. But yeah, anyway, all right. Let's give this POB to you guys. All right. There you go. All right. It's 2 a.m. so that means work tomorrow, and I'll be back online tomorrow night, and then obviously we got the announcement on the next morning, so I'll be live streaming in the morning. And I'm going to try and work on the League Starter video for the ES or Shadow build tomorrow night based on tests I did. But over the weekend and the next week, we might actually see if we can get at least like an early variant of this Perforate build up and running. Because if this actually works, this is very, very strong. And we should be able to get to like a mil on day one and do insane DPS. And the other thing is like it's a jug, so like it's super strong. But anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow night, and I'll leave this VOD up on the YouTube channel as like a an open VOD. I'll just change the header and stuff like that. But anyway,